Hi and welcome to today's episode, which is all about veganising another classic, cheese fondue. Ooh! I made some vegan cheese out of leftover wheat starch from making seitan, and it worked really well. So the idea has been rattling around in my head of what else can I do with those flavours, because it was incredible. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if I could make a cheese fondue. So that's what we're doing today. This afternoon I did a quick video all about starches. So I did 5 different starches, banged them in the microwave to see what the consistency is like. There's arrowroot, cornstarch, potato starch, tapioca, and then wheat starch. Originally when I thought about doing a fondue, I thought I'll use tapioca starch because that's got lots of nice stretch to it. But I'm thinking I might do it with the wheat starch because I had to wash some flour last night and it's left me with a fair amount of starch left. This is the wheat starch I've got left over from doing that video. This will be the easiest starch for people to get hold of as well because all you need is bread flour. So I made this up last night. I didn't film it, but I'll put a couple of links in the description of videos where I've made wash the flour seitan so you can see the process in depth. And you get left with the gluten, that's the protein that's in flour, and you get the starchy water. If that's not enough starch, although I'm sure it will be, I have got some tapioca to hand as well. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. I did at one point have a fondue set and I can't find it. I've ripped apart the basement and it's not there. So I'm wondering if I gave it to a charity shop, like donated it. I'm going to make mine in a little cast iron pot. I'm going to use the same flavourings that I did for the vegan cheese, although I'm probably going to publish this video before I do the cheese video, so that will be useless information. So I'm going to use nutritional yeast, which has got a very cheesy, nutty kind of taste to it anyway. Vegan lactic acid powder. This combined with the nooch just gives it a very cheesy, like a cheddar-y cheese kind of flavour. Some white miso paste for a bit of fermented funk, like a cheese has. Cheese fondue is classically made with kirsch, which is like a cherry spirit made from cherries. I've always made mine with white wine. I didn't want to open a bottle of white wine, so I thought, oh, I'll use some sherry or vermouth. And then I remembered I've got this last bit of a bottle of Prosecco that I keep forgetting to drink. So I'm going to use that instead. And then the base of it, I'm going to use oat milk because that's going to give it a nice richness. Because I thought maybe I could use soy milk, but I think oat's going to be a bit creamier. And oat milk I find has a mild sweetness. Not much, just the same amount of sweetness that milk has. So I think that'll lend itself quite nice to a rich, creamy, delicious fondue. I've got about 115 grams or maybe half a cup of leftover mashed potato. I'm going to put this in to give it some body because otherwise it's just starch, which, you know, is fine, but it's going to be more like a liquid gummy sweet. I'm going to do a few tablespoons of the Prosecco. So for this quantity, maybe 4 or 5 tablespoons. Just do it to taste. You can skip the Prosecco altogether if you don't want any in there. When I do mash, just if I'm doing a quick and dirty meal in the evening, I just crush it down, skins and everything. So I just put it through the potato ricer just to get it ultra smooth. You can also force it through a sieve as well. Start with like a tablespoon of nooch. I'm making all of this up as I go along, so I'll just adjust to taste if I need to. I'll do about ½ teaspoon of the lactic acid powder. I'm going to start with a teaspoon of the white miso. I've opted for white just because it's a bit milder than brown. Brown's got a much more intense flavour. Mix these together. The reason I'm kind of mixing the flavourings in first is that it will be easier to make sure everything's thoroughly mixed before adding a large volume of oat milk. I'm going to add 400 mils of oat milk. Let this all come up to heat and then I'll check the flavour. Thinking about it, I should have let the mixture cook a while longer before putting the oat milk in, just to burn off some of the alcohol from the Prosecco. I'm just making sure to scrape the bottom of the pan, just so then there's no build-up or anything there. I should have started with a teaspoon of nooch. I think that's too much in there. So yeah, start with a teaspoon and then add little bits in if it needs it. The flavour's pretty good, so I'm going to start adding in the starch. So I'm going to try and add the starch while the mixture's moving. So I'll start with a tablespoon. Let that bubble for a minute. Yeah, I think I might add some tapioca because I don't know if this is going to stretch in the same way. This is the wheat starch and this is the tapioca. So the wheat, it does have a little bit of stretch in, but compared to this, that's got tons of stretch. So I've got about a tablespoon of oat milk in the ramekin and I'll add sort of 2 teaspoons of tapioca starch. Mix that into a paste. The reason I'm doing it as a slurry is that if you pour powder into hot liquid, it will form these globules and the outside of it will gel before the inside absorbs any liquid. It's always best to do it as a slurry. Yeah, immediately I can feel resistance. I'm getting strings, that's a good sign. So I'm going to check the flavour because obviously I've added stuff into that. It tastes like it's kind of missing something. So I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of vegan cream cheese. See if that helps. I'm thinking the cream cheese might give it a little bit of fatty richness. I've never seen the cream cheese lump like this before. That's very weird. Normally it melts straight in. I think that's a good point to go from. It's time for some fondue. Ooh, I'm not completely happy with it. There's some tweaks that I would make to it, but for the sake of full honesty, I'm about to crash. The fatigue and the pain has just gone, oh, remember us? So I'm going to draw a line on it before I collapse. So I've put together a little board of yummy bits to dip in there. So I've just got some cubes of sourdough bread and some cherry tomatoes, baby carrots and sugar snap peas. They're all raw. I also made some balsamic rose shallots. So I lined the air fryer basket with foil just to make cleanup a bit easier. Then topped and tailed the shallots, covered everything with olive oil, salt and pepper, and then scattered over a bit of balsamic vinegar. Not loads and loads, but just enough to give it a slight little tangy bits. So, you know, cheese and onion is always a winning combination. To keep everything warm, I've set it on a little rack and then had to raise them up a bit on these tea light holders and then just popped some tea lights underneath. So I can see there is a graininess there, and that's going to be from the potato. So I'll have a think of how I can solve that, because I think the potato does help, but it does cause some texture problems. So the mixture's coating a piece of bread very nicely. Cheers. Flavor's pretty good. Too much nutritional yeast in that. So do a teaspoon to start with and then slowly add it in. Tasting the Prosecco and the Nooch together, I'm realizing they've got a similar taste. It's like there's a top note or something in there that's very similar. And I think they're kind of egging each other on a little bit. Nice and comforting, nice and warming kind of flavors in there. I think it needs more fat. So perhaps a carton of coconut cream, or half a carton maybe. It's thickened and it's gloopy, but it doesn't have something, and I think it's fat. I think that's what it's missing. Even though I put in that dollop of cream cheese, I think it needs more. I think the state it's in now would actually make a really nice soup base. So you could add in some broccoli, cook that out for 5-10 minutes. That would make a delicious soup, like a classic kind of cheddar and broccoli type soup. I did think about adding more tapioca to see if I could get it stretchier, but yeah, I'm pretty close to conking out. So I thought, well, just do it quickly and then you can finish the video. But the flavour with the onions. I'll keep coming back to the recipe, kind of refining it in my own time, and I'll update the pinned comment when I try things out and let you know how it works. I wonder if forcing the potato, like the mashed potato, forcing it through a nut milk bag, that might get some of the graininess out. Hit subscribe and tap the bell icon if you want more vegan recipes landing in your inbox every week. And while you're waiting, check out this.